It's time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
All right, it has been a minute. So glad to be back with everybody. This is awesome. And, I'm going to get into why the absence and all those crazy things. But before we do that, I just want to say the support, the community that has been built through the 49ers Rush podcast has been awesome. The amount of comments, emails, private messages, all those things, man, it's been great. And it's only been 2 weeks. We've been on for 2 weeks. And, the longest break we've had in the 4-year tenure that is, the 49ers Rush podcast. And hopefully, we can kind of change that. But I'm so glad to see everybody back. I'm seeing the countdown crew fill up. And I got to start with that. One, if you were following me on Twitter, you were able to take part. We had 3 lucky winners win a FaceTime opportunity with Jerry Rice himself and receive an autographed jersey. That was our autographed picture. That was awesome. Really, really cool to be able to see some people go through that. And then also our countdown crew. We're in a new month, and we have our Countdown Crew giveaway. And I already see the winner. He's already here. Again, we'll have details for how the Countdown Crew works moving forward at the end of this episode. But the very first month giveaway is this bad boy right here. Homemade drawing, not by me. You'll be able to see that in the details of where to get this. It's Javon Kinlaw, the 49ers' first overall draft pick. Number 13. I actually traded back number 14 overall. That goes to Sergio Gonzalez, who just want to say thank you, Sergio, for always being one of the first ones here. And we're going to have another one here in another 3 weeks. And so we've got another drawing and some other 49ers Rush stuff we're going to be giving away. All you've got to do is jump on whenever we go live, whether on HotMic, Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, wherever. Just comment #CC or Countdown Crew, as Sergio has done time and time again. So thank you guys for your support, and to be a part of that, obviously, you've got to hit the alert button. So that is kind of what's key there. So Sergio, I need you to email me, 49ersRushPodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter through my DMs. They're always open for everybody. And yeah, just let me know where I could send that to you. So I'll cover all the shipping and expenses. It's pretty awesome. You can frame that and hang that up wherever you want. So here's what we've got today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited because anytime you guys have an idea, you got to let me know. This whole podcast, and it's probably going to be a 2-parter because I'm going to talk too damn much. It's been too long. Was brought on by Greg, and he's, Twitter handle @Goro1680. He said, John, when you do return, you should do an all NFC West team to see how many 49ers make the team. And I thought that was just awesome. Love the idea and decided, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. So that's what I've been spent the past 2 days on since he asked me about that, and went ahead and went through the entire NFC West, offense, defense, special teams, just like the NFL does. And I did my preseason NFC West All-Pro team. Now, we might just get through the offense today because I want to take some time because I think this is going to set up really, really well moving into the offseason with where we are now. Understanding your enemy, and every single NFL team has the exact same goal. And that first goal is you got to win your division. So that's kind of where we're starting, and this is going to help us do that. But before we do that, I've got to take a break because I feel like I've done a little bit of a disservice. I don't like talking about myself, or some of you guys may find that hard to believe, but I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about football. That's just what I really, really like. But we cannot be the ostrich that just shoves our head in the sand whenever things get difficult outside of football. Football is a leisurely activity, and I totally get that. So here's the deal, and I want you to understand where I come from and why I do what I do, because falling into the podcast industry and talking football was not an accident by any stretch of the imagination. And for you to understand kind of what that is, I think I have to tell you a little bit of my past. I didn't grow up in the best situation. This isn't a sob story by any stretch, but my dad was nowhere around. He left very, very early on. Mom in and out of prison, brothers and sisters, lots of drug activity, felons, whatever else. But what happened was, I was able to get into football at a very young age growing up in Texas, and football was everything to me. It wasn't a sport. And again, where we grew up, it was predominantly Hispanic in the Fort Worth side, West Fort Worth, Texas. And what happened eventually is my family and I kind of went different ways. And a lot of it had to go back to this idea of racism. And I couldn't stand it. I really couldn't stand it. Just basically, let me just tell you this. My half-brother, I have a lot of brothers and sisters and a lot of half-brothers and sisters, has the Confederate flag tattooed on his face. I can't make this up. Needless to say, we don't talk too much. I was raised in a very racist background. I remember playing hide-and-go-seek in my grandparents' house, hid in the closet, and sure enough, found the robes, Klansmen robes in there. Like, I didn't know what the hell they were at the time. It took a long time to kind of figure out what all that was, but this was the way in which I was raised, and I would hear things said about others that always made me scratch my head from a young age. As I got older in middle school and high school, playing football was everything for me. And my coaches were kind of the father figure that straightened my path a little bit, I guess you could say, to not mess around with the things that other people were doing. And then I'd go back home and my family would say terrible things about other races and other people. And I'm just like, no. My best friends are not like that. And eventually I had to choose. I understood that there were great people on this other side that were not my blood relatives. And that made more sense for me. Now I got into coaching and teaching and worked in predominantly minority areas, impoverished areas. South Dallas is where I coached for about a decade, and I loved it there. It was amazing. I would have stayed there forever. The problem was my wife and I decided to, and we're going to talk football, but this needs to be said, and hopefully this doesn't offend people, and if it does, so be it. But what happened eventually, and I would have continued coaching and teaching at that school until I retired. But we decided it was time for us to take in a couple foster kids. We did that, and it was way more than anything we could have imagined. Needless to say, both the kids went through expulsions and suspensions, and they were 4 and 9 at the time whenever we got them. They were brothers. They were my adopted children now. They're my boys now. Now they are 16 and 11, and they're amazing. But they'd bounce around different foster homes. They were about 10 different foster homes before us. We eventually got the opportunity to adopt them. And I remember my goal was to coach my son's football teams. And I had that opportunity. And from the mouth of babes, I'm coaching this 5-year-old flag football team in Texas. And I'm just thinking, with my wife, she was coaching with me as well. She's amazing, Miss Chapman. And I remember my 5-year-old foster son looks up to me in the middle of practice and says, "Can you just be my dad? I don't want you to be my coach." This 5-year-old kid said this. I was like, all right, I get it. And so what I had to do is I had to focus a lot more at home. I had a bed in my office at the school, coaching high school football, one of the largest schools in the United States, a very, very competitive program. And I had to decide, there's no way I can give these kids what they need and what they deserve. And so I had to give up coaching, and that hurt. That was my identity before that. Football was my identity, and I had to figure out a way to maintain that. And that's when this happened, the 49ers Rush podcast. And I was 4 years in, and I love it. I don't think there's any way I can ever stop podcasting. I think it's going to continue no matter what. But this brings us to where we are today. The situation that's taking place all across the United States is crazy in and of itself, and it's nuts. I got to the point where I just couldn't talk football with what was going on. Talking with former players, former students, former staff. Talking to people all over, and there was just so much pain, and I wasn't sure how I could take part in that, so I decided to listen and to get involved. Took place in a number of different marches in the LA area, lots of conversations, phone calls, just trying to figure things out. And I finally came to the place where it was like, hey, all right, I have a voice, let's use it, and let's try to remedy and right some of these situations. And so what we're going to continue doing here through the 49ers Rush podcast is we are going to highlight different organizations that give back to the black community in an effort to help right some of these systemic issues. And I'm sorry if this bothers you. Don't care. This is a free podcast. I don't know what to say. Hopefully it doesn't offend you to want to help other people, and because you want to help other people, that doesn't mean I don't want to help others. It's not exclusive. Compassion is never exclusive. So as we move forward with the 49ers Rush podcast, now it's back to football. I do want to tell you we are going to be highlighting different organizations almost like we do for our sponsors. They don't pay me. In fact, the 49ers Rush podcast and myself personally has donated to all of the charities that we are going to talk about and organizations we're going to talk about. So having said that, this is the first group that I want to highlight, and then we're going to jump into the offensive side of the NFC West All-Pro team. And here's the deal. This is the Jack and Jill organization. They are amazing. What they are is a social organization for mothers and their children of color. The children have to be between 2 and 19. And what they do is they try to find places for them to serve in their community together. And what happens is social and cultural environment, and everything is kind of brought up together in that. So here's what happens, okay? Fostering an environment for the children to reach their fullest potentials, mother and children work alongside each other on numerous community service projects, fundraising, scholarships, local community outreach, all these different things. And here's one of my favorite things about this. You can give to large national charities and the NAACP and Legal Fund and all. Those are great things, and I've done most of those things, okay? But this is huge because it's local. You can pick your local chapter. They're all over the United States. All you have to do is go to jjsac.org. That's the Sacramento chapter. They have a San Francisco, Santa Clara, Oakland. They're all over the United States. And small donations are fine. So please head over there. This is a wonderful way to give back to the community and make a difference in a child's life of color, and that's what it should be about. So hopefully go check that out. It's in the description here in the video. Wherever you're watching this, you can just kind of scroll down and see that. All right, let's do this. Let's jump into some football talk. And again, the NFC West is only 4 teams, and as we go through this is my list. All right. There's definitely room for debate, and I have erased names and typed in names and then erased that name and put the other name in. It's difficult to do because the All-Pro team basically is this. It starts with what rosterable team you can put on offense and defense, which is hard in today's NFL because you go back and forth between this nickel or base defense, 12-22 personnel, all that kind of stuff, whatever. So let's start with the quarterback position. Probably one of the easiest to start off, and there's going to be a first team and a second team. All right, obviously first team is better, but this is the way the AP writers do it, so I wanted to follow their format. So the first team quarterback's Russell Wilson. I don't think that there's any debate about that. I'm taking part currently with a bunch of other writers. It's called if you want to follow it on Twitter, it's hashtag EF Startup. And what it is we cleared every single roster and we assigned one writer to each team, all 32 teams. I got the 49ers, obviously, and we randomized the draft order. I got number 4. Well, guess what? Russell Wilson went number 3 overall, and that's with every single player in the NFL. Russell Wilson is that. We know who he is. It's easy to hate the dude, but he's a hell of a player. Now, we get to the second team quarterback, and this is where it's kind of rough, okay? Because you've got Jared Goff, which I'm not a big fan of. He was out of the equation for me, but you have Kyler Murray, and then you got Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Kyler Murray quite possibly could be the next big quarterback. He can't be a big quarterback. He's only 5'10", 5'9". But he could be the next, throwing shade there, which he needs it because he's short. But that's okay. But who is the better quarterback now? If you were focused on 2020 and you could choose Jimmy Garoppolo or Kyler Murray just for 1 year and 1 year only under Kyle Shanahan, I'm taking Jimmy Garoppolo. So my second team quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. I have no qualms. If somebody would say, man, that's BS, Let's go after, Kyler Murray, whatever, that's fine. I think 1 year of production, we haven't really seen great. He couldn't win games down the stretch, and I think he could be great, but I don't think he's there now. So if you disagree with that, that's okay. And once we go through the offense and total up these total numbers, you can kind of see the wiggle room with some of these, because I do think it's a wash. I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyler Murray are a little bit of a wash at this point in their careers. We'll have to see what happens. And the funny thing is, they kind of started about the same. They have the exact same amount of full year starts. So individual games, Jimmy Garoppolo's got a couple more, but not many, just 10 more games. Now let's move to running back. Each team only gets one, and this one wasn't too difficult for me, especially with Todd Gurley leaving. He's gone. Chris Carson definitely was the first team running back. He had over 1,200 rushing yards last year alone. I get Raheem Mostert, and he's my second team running back for the NFC West All-Pro team. I love Raheem Mostert, and I would prefer to have him on my team over Chris Carson. However, Chris Carson did it the entire year before he got injured late. Raheem Mostert came on very, very late, and let's be honest, every single running back in the world that plays in that Kyle Shanahan system is on fire. Raheem Mostert should be not necessarily a workhorse guy. He just should get the ball more. Especially should have got the ball at least once in the first quarter of the Super Bowl. I digress. Let's move on. All right, wide receiver. Now, this one's difficult because I decided to go with basically a 3 wide receiver, okay? That's what I wanted to do. So let's look at this. 3 wide receivers make the first team, and it's a clear cut. The best wide receiver in the NFC West, not even up for debate, and he's a newbie. That's DeAndre Hopkins. I wish there's a huge chasm between DeAndre Hopkins and anybody else, but the way that it works, you have to have 3 guys to start on the All-Pro team. So here we go. DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, who is just a touchdown machine, and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett went over 1,000 years, and I can already tell some people are going to be upset because their rookie's not on the list, but don't fret too much. Again, that first team, NFC West All-Pros, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Lockett. Now, the second team, and man, it's not really a drop-off. Again, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, you could put them in this category and vault up one of these other 3 guys. I think they're all very, very similar. I've got Deebo Samuel. This is the second team wide receivers. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, and Robert Woods. Some guys that I struggled with. I wanted to put Larry Fitzgerald in there, just his numbers haven't really matched it. Christian Kirk, he was another guy that could have been close. Kendrick Bourne, just a little bit on the outside for me, and again, I kept going back and forth. Who goes first, DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel? Yards, I think you go DK Metcalf. You all-purpose, I think you go Deebo Samuel. I think that these 2 players are going to be linked for their entire career, and I love it. One, because the 49ers passed on DK. They could have had him, but they chose Deebo instead. And now they're in the same division. Now they're on rival teams. And so these 2 guys will be forever linked. I think that the ceiling of DK Metcalf is definitely higher. But, man, how do you not love Deebo's versatility in the run game? He's basically a running back / wide receiver. He's a little bit of everything. So a lot of fun there. And, again, Robert Woods, good gosh. He's a guy that can have 120 catches, year in and year out. But he makes the second team there. Now let's move to tight end. All right, tight end, this is zero debate. Zero debate whatsoever. George Kittle, he's the first, and there is nobody else. Now, the second team tight end was a little bit difficult because there's not a lot of prominent tight ends. Greg Olsen, you got that just joined the Seattle Seahawks. But I went Tyler Higbee, who had as well of a closing out the season. They didn't make the playoffs, so we didn't get to see the Rams in the playoffs. But what Tyler Higbee did down the stretch, if he is able to replicate that in 2020, you're talking about a guy that's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. But I'm just not sure they can continue using that situation for him. But George Kittle, first team. Tyler Higbee, second team. Let's go to the big uglies, the offensive tackles. Now, I didn't focus too much on left tackle and right tackle. I just wanted the 2 best tackles, okay? Because, again, we're filling out a starting roster. So the 2 best tackles, and this was rough for me. I think the first one is Dwayne Brown. for the Seattle Seahawks. Their offensive line is pure trash, but Dwayne Brown is not. I think he is the best left tackle in this entire division. Now, then there's a little bit of a mix-up because you've got these three other guys that are way ahead of everybody else. It is very clear-cut. You've got Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams and Andrew Whitworth. Well, Andrew Whitworth had his time at being one of the best tackles in all of football for a long time. Whenever he first transitioned from Cincinnati to the Los Angeles Rams, he had 2 years of just optimum output. But he's getting older, And Nick Bosa showed him a thing or two this year. So what I'm going to do for my first team, and I kept changing it around. It was tough. But I'm going big silverback. Trent Williams and Dwayne Brown will be my first team offensive tackles. Now, my second team is going to be Andrew Whitworth and Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey definitely did not have the same quality year that he did his rookie year. Some injuries, had some stellar games that if you just watch individual games, you're going to see Mike McGlinchey go off and you're just like, holy cow, but then he's going to have some mistakes. And if you want to go back, I should say this too. Because I took time off, I decided to pause all billing on the 49ers Rush Patreon page. So here's the deal. If you haven't subscribed to the Patreon, you can go do it right now for free. All you got to do is sign up for the Frank Gore tier. It says it's $8 a month. Nobody is being billed this upcoming month. So you've got all through, what is it, June? It's June 11th now. Through the rest of the month, you just go sign up. You'll click the $8 thing. It's not going to charge you. And then you have all 3 weeks, and it's free. It's going to be free. I'm not going to charge anybody this month. So essentially, you're going to have it all the way from June and July for free. So go check it out. You sign up for the $8 things, but the billing is paused, okay? So if you want to go through the hundreds of videos that I have on there, over 100 hours of video breakdowns from the season, players, all that kind of stuff, you can go do that now. So just want to let you know again, there's going to be 0 billing done, and that's on me, because I needed to step back and figure those things out, which I talked about earlier. But if you want that, you can go get that. That's over there for you, and I want people to enjoy that. Now, let's continue going through the offensive line. Let's look at offensive guards. Okay, Laken Tomlinson, and I got to warn you, it gets ugly quick. The NFC West is good at a lot of things, especially defense. Whenever we jump over to the defensive side, you're going to notice there's a lot of talent. There is a giant chasm that just sucks in the interior offensive lines of the NFC West. There's nobody. There is no talent there. All 4 of these teams have basically said we don't care about guard play. We're going to focus on tackles, and that's all we really care about. So trying to pick the offensive guards was just gross, and wound up going with Laken Tomlinson and Justin Pugh, who really hasn't played at all for the Cardinals, but he has had a lot of really good years. He's just injured all the time. So that's my first team. Second team, there's nobody. Most of the guards either left or they were so bad, like they were negative graded on everything. And so Mike Uapati, 49ers legend, and Daniel Brunskill are my best 2 guards that I could find for the second team, all pro. So again, Laken Tomlinson, Justin Pugh, first team, then Mike Uapati and Daniel Brunskill, second team. Just gross. It's all it is. Just gross. Now center, again, nothing. I don't even think this guy's the best center on his own team. That's Weston Richburg. I think Ben Garland's better, but you had to pick somebody. And Brian Allen, he made the second team. So you look at strengths of this division. Quarterback play. Nobody has a bad quarterback. Even if you don't like Jared Goff, he's not a bad quarterback. He's average at worst. He got his team to the Super Bowl just 2 short years ago. Running back, there's not really much there. Wide receiver, quarterbacks, off the charts. Offensive tackles, great. But there is a huge gap whenever you look at interior offensive line play. It's just not there. It's just not there at all. And so I think you kind of see how do I say this? You kind of see that there's some issues with the way these teams are built because everybody builds their team to win their division. And offensively, yeah. Just got to say, there's some major issues there. Now, before I move on to the defense, I want to stay with you guys. We're already at 25 minutes. Let's just keep rolling. I don't care how long this goes. I've missed talking with you guys. Hopefully, you guys miss talking some football too. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them up in the chat. Just make sure you tag me, whether you're on HotMic or whether you're on YouTube. Hit that like button and hit that share button. That helps us out a lot as well. So before we move on, just want to say thank you to our sponsor, Bet Online. Here's the deal. There is no shortage of action going on for our exclusive partners at betonline.ag. Sports are slowly making their way back. BetOnline is leading the way in the best odds and lines for all UFC, NASCAR, boxing, soccer. They've got everything. Plus simulated NFL, NBA, UFC simulations all day, every day on their website. There's so much to bet on. So if you want to bet on something besides sports, they have casino games, poker tournaments, prop bets. You can check out so much stuff over there. So visit betonline.ag. Use the promo code BLUEWIRE, no spaces, blue like the color, WIRE. And you get a free welcome bonus. So head over there, sign that up at it's betonline.ag, and use the promo code BLUEWIRE. Boom. Thank you, betonline.ag. What's up? What's up? All right, let's jump over real quick to the defensive side. And this is much more fun, much easier to break down because the problem is almost the opposite of what you had with the offense. Instead of being like, gosh, I don't know who to put in here, it was a lot more, I have to find ways to get these guys in here. So here we go. Defensive tackles. Let's start there. Go from the inside out. Aaron Donald, obviously, the argument could be made the best defensive player of our generation. And it is funny. You look back at his competition and what he's going against on the interior versus his division. He's not going against very good competition. And so it's the chicken or the egg. Is the interior offensive line weak for the entire NFC West because Aaron Donald's there? Or is Aaron Donald so great because the interior is so bad? Or is it both? I think it's both, personally. Aaron Donald is just that good. Now, there were 3 defensive tackles that I struggled putting in that first team to start opposite him. Obviously, this would have been DeForest Buckner. Those two were cemented there for the past 4 years, but he's gone now. Michael Brockers jumps up and takes his spot, and so you have these 2 interior guys, and I know he plays some 5 tech and all that kind of stuff, whatever, but Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers as my 2 interior first teamers, and second team goes to Poona Ford, undrafted free agent for the Seattle Seahawks. He is just one of the best run-stuffing defensive tackles, and then after that, I think it's got to be DJ Jones. I really, really do. You want to put somebody in there, Ronald Blair, Eric Armstead, if you want to count him inside. I don't. The majority of his snaps are outside, so I put him in that category. But there's not really a lot of top-tier talent there. And then if you look at the Cardinals, they do a little bit more of a 3-4, so that makes it a little bit murkier there as well because they really only have one true interior guy, and the rest all fall under D ends. So let's jump to the defensive ends. This person was the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year last year. Chandler Jones, dude goes off and almost gets 20 sacks. Had a hell of a year. Chandler Jones on the first team with none other than the Rookie of the Year, the number 2 overall pick, baby, Nick Bosa. And golly, I would put those 2 players up against anybody. They are phenomenal. Going back to, I brought up how I'm redoing that draft where everybody's deleted and you get to start your franchise. We're doing 30 rounds to build your roster. Nick Bosa went number 7 overall. And so it was nothing but quarterbacks. It was Aaron Donald and Nick Bosa. That's the top 7. I didn't get to pick them. I was picking 4. I went Deshaun Watson. I want to focus on quarterback. He fell to me at number 4. Y'all can hate me about that, but that's okay. But it just goes to show you Nick Bosa getting picked ahead of people like Von Miller, Myles Garrett, all these other different players. He was the second defensive player taken after Aaron Donald. The kid is going to be great. And, I put up this poll on Twitter, I asked this: who is the most important 49er moving forward? And I didn't put a lot of caveats on it. I just wanted to see what people would vote. And I gave 3 options: Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? I just said, again, the verbiage: who is the most important 49er moving forward? Jimmy Garoppolo won hands down 43.5%, but I don't think he deserves it. I really don't. I want to say George Kittle because I think George Kittle is so much better than anybody else at his position, but he doesn't play a premium position. So then I look at Nick Bosa, who I personally think is the most important 49ers moving forward because he plays a premium position and he's already after 1 year at the top of that position. Now, he might be tied, but he's in the elite tier, period. Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback, is much more valuable than edge rusher. I get it, but I don't think he's at the top. I did my rankings. I have Jimmy Garoppolo in that 9 to 11 quarterback range, whereas edge, I got Nick Bosa right at the top. I think it's Chandler Jones and Nick Bosa. Now, Chandler Jones is much older, but I have those 2 guys right up there. I disagree with the masses. I get it. Everybody wants to vote quarterback, and I don't think there's a problem with that. But, man, Nick Bosa, that dude, he is for real. Anyway, so that's my first team defensive ends: Chandler Jones, Nick Bosa. I think the strongest of the division by far, position-wise. I think you got the number 1 and number 2 edge rushers right there. I think that's it. Now, the second team defensive ends, they're strong as well. And some people might argue with me, and I hope that they do. Now, Jadeveon Clowney wasn't in the mix. He's not signed with the team. I don't think he would have made this anyway. He's never had double-digit sacks in his entire career. Nobody wants to sign him. Anyway, I went with 2 49ers, and so Eric Armstead and Dee Ford. I would take both of those guys over anybody else in this division outside of Chandler Jones, which this is kind of the way in which the 49ers are built. They've got 3 of the 4 edge players of the first and second All-Pro NFC West team. So you got Chandler Jones from the Cardinals. The next 3, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Dee Ford. There's a reason why the 49ers defense is what it is, and that's it right there. That's it right there. Linebackers. I went with the traditional set. So I did 3 linebackers and I did 3 corners just because I didn't want to leave anybody out. So I know the numbers don't work. That's okay. Don't hate me. All right, here we go. The first team NFC West All-Pro, Bobby Wagner. He's got to be on there. I know he had a super down year and missed a lot of tackles and was awful in coverage, but he is still an All-Pro. Fred Warner. He was so close to winning All-Pro, but trust me, he's going to be on there next year. And then Dre Greenlaw. I don't see a way that Dre Greenlaw is not on there for what he did. Started every single game from week 1 to the Super Bowl and just got better. I'm telling you, Dre Greenlaw, his potential can surpass that of Fred Warner. So the young tandem is there, and it's not going anywhere. Linebackers for the second All-Pro team, KJ Wright. I know he's on his way out, but he could still cover very well. I think Jordan Brooks is going to take some of his snaps. Jordan Hicks, I really, really like with the Cardinals, just a tackling machine. And Quan Alexander. Again, you look at the front 7, the 49ers got it dominated. All 3 linebackers of the first and second team, there's some weaknesses there across the league. You look at what the Rams did. They lost both their linebackers. They like to stay in the nickel set, and that's going to hurt them. The Rams have lost everybody. They've lost almost everybody, except for, let's go to the cornerback, and the reason why they lost everybody, Jalen Ramsey. Now, I did 3 corners on the first team as well, and I did not differentiate between nickel and outside, whatever. I just picked the best 3 corners. Jalen Ramsey, Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson. And so you got Sherman and Patrick Peterson. They're long in the tooth for sure, but they're still playing at a high level. And you've got to keep them there. They deserved the respect to be there on the first team until they prove otherwise. Both of them had great years last year. And you could argue Richard Sherman had a better year than Jalen Ramsey last year. I think you could argue that, but that's the first team. Second team, a lot of talent here, actually. Kwan Williams, he's got to be on there. Shaquille Griffin and Troy Hill. So, again, you're seeing the Rams kind of strengthen their team. they've got 2 solid corners, and they've got 2 solid defensive tackles. That's pretty much it. They don't have anything else. But their defensive tackles and their corners are stout. Now, the safety position, I've got first team, Quandre Diggs and Buda Baker. And second team, Mr. Glass himself, Jimmy Ward, and Bradley McDougall. So the Seahawks kind of, man, they love safety play. They traded for Quandre Diggs, the absolute steal of a trade. Bradley McDougall's up and down, but still a hell of a player. And Jimmy Ward, I think whenever he's on, he is just a very well-rounded safety that just cleans things up in the back end. He's not going to get interceptions. He's not going to get turnovers, but he doesn't miss tackles and is just consistent. Now, also got to do special teams real quick. Kicker, Zane Gonzalez, first team, Arizona Cardinals. Robbie Gould, second team. And then punters, Michael Dixon, who I think is the best punter in the entire NFL for Seattle, and Johnny Heckler, special teams ace for the Los Angeles Rams. He's going to be second team. Returners, Richie James, he was the first team punt returner. Had the most yards in the division last year, and JoJo Natson for the LA Rams second team. Kick returners, Pharaoh Cooper for Arizona first team, and Richie James again for this second team. Those two were pretty close, but I gave the nod there to Pharaoh Cooper. So let's talk about this. Now let's break down what these numbers mean. Let's go through some totals, okay? If we just count who had the most first and second team nominations of all 4 teams, let's do that. 49ers, obviously, clearly in front. Okay, they had 22. 9 on offense, 10 on defense, and 3 on special teams. So you can kind of see it's pretty balanced. 9 offense, 10 defense. Now let's jump down to second place. That's Seattle with 13. So 49ers 22, Seattle 13. Now you could say, oh, John, you just put all the 49ers in there that you like and love and all that stuff. That's fine. But from 22 to 13, you're going to have to move 7 guys off there. And I didn't even get a count Juszczyk, who definitely would be first overall in the fullback category. But I didn't want to count that because some of the teams don't use fullbacks, whatever. Seattle had 13, 6 on offense, 6 on defense, 1 special teamer. The Los Angeles Rams, 11 total, 5 offense, 4 defense, 2 special teams. And Arizona, 8. 2 offense, 4 defense, 2 special teams. So you kind of get to see the difference there. Now, if we just pay attention to first team only, 49ers have 9. 4 offense, 4 defense, 1 special team. Seattle has 7. 4 offense, 2 defense, 1 special teams. Rams have 4. 1 offense, 3 defense. And the Cardinals actually have 7. So they just don't have any depth. They have a lot more than the Rams. They have 2 offense, 3 defense, and 2 special teams. So I don't know. I think it was a really fun exercise to kind of jump in there and just see a couple things and how it kind of works. It's just kind of what it is. It's interesting to say the least. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Nick, couple comments and questions I want to get through before we take off real quick. Jalen Hurd has been practicing with Jimmy Garoppolo. We have the film, we have the footage, we have the clips of that out there. That is great news. Now, Jalen Hurd has been out with basically a broken back, to say he's got some issues. The fact that he is running routes here in June, that's great. How is he going to hold up against contact? Now, we might not get to know that because, with COVID and the delay and everything and all that, it weighs into that. But the fact that he is out there now practicing, at least running routes on air, is huge. Really, really excited about that. Stay with Nick here. Will D Ford be more impactful this season after that knee surgery? You got to hope so. We don't need D Ford to be an every down player. What we need D Ford to do is get about 25 to 35 snaps a game, and that's it. We have our base D line. We're going to be just fine. It's going to be on the edge. You've got Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead. In between the tackles, you got DJ Jones, Javon Kinlaw, right? Those are our 4. Now, when it's time to rush the passer, that's where D Ford comes in. You move Eric Armstead down. You bring in guys like Solomon Thomas. I didn't want to say his name today. That's okay. But you do that, and that's going to be fine. You don't need D Ford to be out there banging his body, 40, 50 plays a game. He's 25, 35 plays a game. That's it. That's all you need. Every single third down, and just to get out there. So if D Ford has a great season, the 49ers are going to go back to the Super Bowl, period. That's just all there is to it, because he just changes how great this defense can be. Anyway, from Travis, please tell everyone to calm down. Jimmy G was pretty good for the first full season as a starter. You're exactly correct. He has one full season, the exact same as Kyler Murray, and he got his team to the Super Bowl. He overthrew the pass at the end of the Super Bowl to win it, but he was on pace to be the Super Bowl MVP. What was he? 18 for 22 passing before the fourth quarter, something like that. Like, he just went. He had 11 straight pass completions. He was on fire. Then just things got ice cold, and you can't blame it on Jimmy G. Defense gave up 21 points. I think that's kind of the, in the fourth quarter, that's got to go on the defense as well. Anyway, contract talk. Oh man, this is going to be fun. Can the 49ers still be competitive if they pay Kittle close to $20 million a year? Well, you're going to have to pay him that much. I think if you can get him for 18, that's going to be a steal at this point. The problem is, yes, you can. You can handle that. He's basically your wide receiver one. So if you look at wide receiver money, that's going to kind of fit that, which the 49ers don't pay anything to the wide receivers. They're all young draft picks. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is the longest tenured 49er wide receiver that we have, which is crazy. Travis Benjamin's older, but I don't even think he's going to make the team. You got to pay him. The salary cap next year is going to be gross, because the salary cap is affected by revenue that is brought into the team, which, if we're not going to have fans or limited fans or something along those lines, that's going to shrink that salary cap even more. So you have the salaries, which are ascending, they keep going up, but if the salary cap, which has always ascended with those, drops, it's going to be a problem. So here's what I keep saying, and people could disagree with me, that's fine. Here's the issue. I don't think that George Kittle's going to get re-signed until things return to normal. I'm thinking like week 4 or 5 of the season. So is George Kittle going to be the guy, which it seems like he would be the guy, to practice and go through all these things and not hold out? I don't know. But I don't think a deal gets done before the season starts, because there's too many questions. I don't think that the 49ers front office, Parag Morante, all those guys are going to be okay signing a 20-year deal, $20 million a year deal, which he probably does deserve, if they know next year's salary cap is going to just drop. The floor is going to drop out of it because of the revenue. So once I think things get known a little bit more, they're going to take care of them. George Kittle's not playing anywhere else. We had the DeForest Buckner thing, and I get that. And I said, I should probably go back and find the clip, but I said, Eric Armstead is turning into a more important person to the 49ers because he plays multiple roles. And the way that played out, take that for what you want, but it is what it is. I think you can pay him. I think it's going to be hard to pay him, but you got to do it. He's the best, and he's young, and his best is ahead of him. He's played hurt. He's played through injuries. He's the vocal leader in and off the field. He's everything. You do what you got to do to get him. So this has been fun. I'm going to leave you guys now with the Countdown Crew outros, just so you can figure out how to win different prizes. Again, Sergio, just want to say congrats again. Go ahead and message me so I can get you your stuff sent to you. Just want to say thanks. It's great to be back. Love you guys. If you haven't unfollowed yet, just want to say thanks, and we will be back with you guys soon. All right, guys, just want to remind you of the Countdown Crew. I am trying to find creative ways to give things away to the loyal listeners that show up, episode in, episode out, doesn't matter when it is. So here's the deal, guys. If you haven't participated in this before, here's what you do. When the countdown starts, okay, whether this is on YouTube, HotMic, Periscope, wherever, when the countdown is up, that first 30 seconds before the podcast starts, I need you to start lighting up those comments, okay? And what's going to happen at the end of every month, I'm going to keep track. Whoever gets the most and all those things, I'm going to pick 1 or 2 people. I'm going to be giving away t-shirts, 49ers Rush gear, stickers, perhaps even let you jump on the pod, tell people your story, how you became a 49ers fan, something along those lines. But the Countdown Crew is huge. So again, for our live listeners, make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell wherever it is you listen. And again, that first 30 seconds, that's the countdown crew. I need you guys in there. I need you to bring in energy because I feed off that. And I think usually whenever we have shows with a lot of people on early, those are always my favorite podcasts to do. So I need your help. The countdown crew, again, get some free stuff. And I'm going to be sending that out to you. For those of you that do listen traditional podcast ways, I understand you don't have a way to do that. But I'm going to try to find some new creative ways to get you guys active in that as well. And again, I got a lot of stuff I got to give away. So help us out there. That is the countdown crew. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you guys so much.